Well, we have a verdict for the Philadelphia Eagles and the Atlanta Falcons. So, if you did not hear, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Atlanta Falcons were under investigation for suspicion of tampering. Now, I'll get into that a little bit. For free agency, there's a 48-hour or something like that, but it's basically a 2-day tampering window. I think might be 52 hours. But there's basically 2 days where you can talk to pending free agents. Well, actually, they're agents in order to try to work out a deal before actual free agency starts. If you're able to work out a deal, then you are able to sign the player once actual free agency hits. Now, I mean, here's where people get frustrated with that because it starts at, I think, noon, right? That's the legal tampering period. 12:15, it's 8 years, 3 years, $24 million, $8 million per year for DeAndre Swift. So we need to all applaud the Chicago Bears for getting a deal done and out to insiders in 15 minutes. I mean, you gotta figure to get the deal done, then call the insider to tweet that out. They must have had the deal done in 10 minutes. Obviously, sarcasm. There was obviously tampering with that deal and others. There's no chance they had a deal done with DeAndre Swift's agent in 15 minutes. So that's where this entire thing is bullshit. And obviously there's workarounds with it where you could even talk to their agent in hypotheticals. Hey, maybe if we were interested in signing your pending free agent player, hypothetically, what, maybe could be a number that we would start at. And let's say they say 3 years for $30 million, which gives $10 million per year. It's like, well, if we were to hypothetically counter with, let's say, 3 years and $18 million. And it's like, how would you hypothetically counter that? And before you know it, they have a deal done and they technically didn't break any rules. Right? Because these deals do not get done in 15 fucking minutes or less. They don't. The only way that happens is you call his agent right at noon. What does he want? 8 years for 24? Done. That is the only way you get that done. Only way. Is you just say okay to whatever number he says. Or they say okay to whatever number you say. There's no way it's back and forth negotiating and you're done in 15 minutes. It's not possible. So let's get into the Eagles and the Falcons. The Eagles signed Saquon Barkley from their in-division rival, the Giants. And some Eagles fans might say, rival? We beat them every time. They're not a rival, which, fine, whatever. But they're an in-division team. That is a non-debatable. So you sign Saquon. The Falcons signed Kirk Cousins, Darnell Mooney, and one other person whose name escapes me. Well, apparently there was the investigation into if anything was done illegally against the rules. And they said, Philadelphia Eagles, we looked at it, you're good. Now, did they tamper? Probably. But was it within the rules? Or just not even within the rules. Was it not against the rules? Apparently. So, let's go to the Falcons. The NFL said, Atlanta, we found that you broke the rules. So, the team is getting fined $250,000. The GM is getting fined $50,000. And we're taking away a 5th round draft pick. So, altogether, to get Kirk Cousins, Darnell Mooney, and the third player that they illegally tampered with, it cost them $300,000 and a 5th round pick. If that's going to be the running punishment for tampering, more teams are going to start doing it because that is an absolute joke. Like, that's not nearly enough punishment for other teams to see that and go, oh, now we know why we shouldn't tamper. Mike Tomlin got fined more for standing in the way of Jacoby Jones than the GM did for tampering with Kirk Cousins, and they paid him $45 million a year in order to get him as their starting quarterback. Like, that's insane. Mike Tomlin got fined double what he got fined. And I think the Steelers might have gotten fined too back when that happened. But that was years ago. I can't remember. But I know Mike Tomlin got a $100,000 fine because he talked about it on the pivot. So, to me, that's not nearly tough enough on the Falcons. Because that's like, okay, oh, you tampered? That's literally what that was. It was a light slap on the wrist. So, if that's going to be what happens to teams that tamper, we're going to have a lot more of it. I'm almost going to encourage, if that's going to be the punishment, teams should tamper. Just maybe that's the punishment for a little bit, and then the NFL's like, guys, they're not stopping tampering. So then you have to up it. The team gets hit with $1 million fine, and the GM gets $250,000, and then you lose a 3rd round draft pick. But to lose a 5th, and this is like, this would really punish them, is that you lose a certain amount of your salary cap next season. So, I'm going to throw it out there. This isn't going to be the cap number, but let's say the cap number is $300 million next year, right? And it's like, okay, Atlanta, we found you guilty of tampering, so instead of $300 million, you're going to have $290 million in cap space. You're going to lose a certain percentage of your salary cap, which really, really puts them at a disadvantage. Because that's really what this was. It was free agency. This isn't draft, And you can't take away, wins for them or anything. You can't say, well, first game of the season, you automatically lose. Like, you can't do that. I don't even know if you could, because maybe you could suspend Kirk with pay. That could be an option. To be like, okay, you know what? These 3 players, they don't get to play game 1. They'll get paid for it, but they don't get to play game 1. Like, I don't think that's going to be a viable option, because at that point, Kirk's being punished, Darnell's being punished for really something that isn't their fault, I guess. That's where you get into gray areas where, like, the player can't get punished, but the team can. It's just, and then I think they got in trouble because they had direct contact with Kirk Cousins, instead of his agent in that 52-hour period. So it wasn't even like it was outside of that. It was literally inside the 52 hours. They had contact with Kirk. And I think he mentioned that in his like opening press conference, where so he kind of shot the Falcons in the foot on that one. So yeah, it's just that punishment. It's a joke. Tampering, it's a joke. It really is. I'm in favor of when the season ends. And by season I mean the Super Bowl. Give it like a couple weeks maybe. And then other teams can start talking to free agents. Because at that point, let's say, for example, the two teams that were just in it, the Chiefs and the 49ers, they get a couple weeks to talk to their free agents. Because it's only about a month between the end of the Super Bowl and beginning of free agency. It's about a month. If you get like 2 weeks to talk to free agents, try to get deals done, and then the other teams like that didn't make the Super Bowl, they get at least a month in that point, because you figure if you lose in the AFC or NFC championship game, it's 2 weeks till the Super Bowl, and then another 2 weeks after that. So you basically get a month to talk to free agents and anyone, so on and so forth. And so the teams that didn't make the playoffs get, 2 months to talk to guys? Plus, you can always negotiate with players in season. Nothing says you can't. And I'm not a fan of the franchise tag. Like, if you can't come up with a deal with this player, because, like, let's take Lamar, for example. Like, Lamar played 3 years, right? After that, he's eligible for a contract. Okay, so it's 3 years. You have to pay Lamar sooner or later. He plays year 4. Okay, you still haven't paid Lamar. He plays his 5th year option. Still haven't paid Lamar. So it gets to a certain point where, okay, you clearly either are just not wanting to pay him because you're hoping he has a bad season and that benefits you, and then you come to the table, hi, here's this lower than what you deserve, lower than what you have earned contract. Please sign it. So, or like T. Higgins, okay, T has played 4 years in the NFL, and you just had the ability to trade him before his 4th season, but you wanted to pair him with Jamar Chase another year. Okay, you knew you would put yourself in this situation. Joe Burrow has been paid. Jamar Chase needs to be paid. Are you going to pay T. Higgins too? Because if not, trade him while he's still cheap and try to get something for him. No, we're not going to do that. Okay, well, let him play out his 4th year and let him go. No, we're not going to do that. That's where I get upset with teams. Like, it's not like this is a big surprise. You knew this was coming. So guess what? And you want to know what? If it's year 4 and you're able to come to an agreement with T before free agency starts and tampering starts and all that, if you're able to come to a deal with him and he signs and you're all good, all good. But at that point, let him hit the open market. You have had a year to pay him. A whole year. If you cannot come to an agreement on a contract in a year, you need to let him go test free agency, because either you're way wrong on his market or he's way wrong on his market. And you know who's going to decide who's right? The market. The other NFL teams will decide who is right, you or him. Who's closer on his true value? Because let's say he says, I'm worth $30 million. No, you're worth $20 million. Market said, oh, congratulations, you're worth $28 million. Okay, T was right. Or he was at least more right. Or congratulations, 22. It's really a matter of, I got onto a side tangent here, but that's one thing that I hate as well, is the franchise tag. I think it needs to go. Because if you're not able to come to an agreement on a contract, which we see these other teams very quickly come to agreement with other teams' free agents on these big money deals. Why were you not able to do that? So, and it's, you know what, if you don't have the money for it, okay, fine, you don't have the money for it. Let him go. Just let him go. So, and I know T signed his franchise tag. So, he's going to be with the Bengals this year. All right, well, that's it for this one. I went on a little bit of a tangent, but yeah, it's not strong enough of a punishment for the Falcons. It needs to be stronger, or you just need to let teams tamper. One of the two. All right, so I'll see all you guys in the next video. I have a lot more coming that I'm going to be recording after this. So if you did enjoy it, leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on, so then you know when all of those videos are coming. Thanks, guys.